aboard to your boys channel. It's Eugene Talks Football. And on this show today, we'll be talking about a particular story. Despite being one of Arsenal's best players this season, Ben White has once again not been included in the England squad for the upcoming international games. It is the dream of every soccer player to don the national colors. So, in spite of Ben White's sensational form since the season started, he has once again been snubbed for the England national team. He hasn't been called up to the England national team for the upcoming international games against Brazil and Belgium. There are international friendlies anyway, but where the likes of Joe Gomez of Liverpool and Enzre Konsa of Aston Villa have been selected, and yet again, Ben White has been snubbed. What is the reason? What is the backstory leading to this constant snub from the national team since the World Cup in Qatar 2022? That is where the story all began. That is where it all began. Where you remember Ben White left the camp in Qatar during the World Cup and flew back to England. We have to find out what happened. In Gareth Southgate's press conference yesterday, after the players who were called up was introduced, or what the list was released, he was asked the reason as to why Ben White was not included in the national team selection. And let's listen to what he had to say just in a bit. He said to the reporter, "Look, it's absolutely the question you should ask. Clearly on form, I can't sit here and say he doesn't deserve to be in." John McDermott is the technical director of the England national team, had a call from Edu. Edu is the technical director of Arsenal Football Club last week to say Ben White didn't want to be considered for England squads at this time. That's the great shame. He's a player I really like. A player we took to the Euros when he was at Brighton in 2021. A player we took to the World Cup in 2022. I spoke to him post-Qatar because I was keen to pick him, but there was clearly reticence on his side. It means he was reluctant, there was a feeling that he didn't want to be in the England setup. Okay, to round off what he said, I don't know fully why that is, but I have to respect that. The door is open for him because he's a good player who can make a difference for England, but he's not available to us. So why would a player, so it is evident that it is Ben White that asked not to be selected for the national team. He has asked to be given time out of the national team. So it's not as if he's been snubbed by the England manager. But who wouldn't want to be selected for their national team? It's honor and pride it's the dream of every football player. So there must be a reason as to why Ben White has asked to be excused from the England national team. Okay, let's find out more. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think Gareth Southgate is telling the full truth, because you would remember, or if you don't remember, let me shed more light on it. During the World Cup in Qatar, it was reported that there was a fallout between Ben White and Gareth Southgate's coaching staff, especially the Gareth Southgate's assistant coach, Steve Holland. So there was a verbal altercation between the assistant manager and Ben White in the presence of the whole team. You know, if something like this happens, it is the player that always gets the stick. You don't expect the manager or his assistant to quit the job or leave the camp because they have other players to attend to. So as a result of that, Ben White was asked to leave the camp because it was really a heated altercation between Steve Holland, the assistant manager of England national team, and Ben White, the right fullback for Arsenal Football Club. So to this end, I believe that this is the reason why Ben White has decided not to be included in the England national team as long as Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland remain at the helm of the national team. Is it not a clear? That's a very clear understanding. So you wouldn't blame Ben White for not wanting to be part of the setup. So I believe that it's the best decision for both parties. That's a wise decision from Ben White. I'm not saying this because he's an Arsenal player. Of course, you wouldn't expect Gareth Southgate to come to the press conference to reveal everything that had happened or to give his assistant manager the stick. You know, he would have to be professional in the media. And he stated further that there were lots of stories that were put out in the articles by journalists that the different stories that made the rounds during the at that time were not true. So he said this in a nutshell because he didn't reveal everything that happened, and the extent of the altercation between the assistant manager and Ben White, the details of the altercation wasn't fully revealed. So that is the latest coming out of the news with regards to Ben White's exclusion from the England national team. Recall that Ben White did not make his England debut as an Arsenal player. He was always called up for the national team, even when he was at Brighton, as confirmed by Gareth Southgate. So that's the update about Gareth Southgate. I beg your pardon. Ben White's exclusion from the England national team. Share your thoughts on the comments below and let me know what you think about that particular one. And today is the day for the draws for the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League, and as well as the UEFA Conference League. I beg your pardon. And to remind you, the teams that have qualified for these competitions respectively, in the Champions League, it's Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Borussia Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, as well as PSG. Today, they will learn their opponents for the quarterfinal of the Champions League, the ties that will see them progress to the semi-final. So stay tuned as we wait for the draws for that particular one. And the result of Europa League matches that were played yesterday, that the second leg fixtures of the round of 16 of the Europa League matches results. Slavia Praha versus Inter Milan. The game ended 3-1 in favor of, I beg your pardon, AC Milan. In favor of AC Milan. AC Milan won 3-1, thereby progressing to the quarterfinal on aggregate by an aggregate score of 3-7. It was Benfica, Rangers nil, Benfica 1. Benfica progressed 3-2 on aggregate. Villarreal 3, Marseille 1. Remember, Marseille defeated Villarreal 4-0 in the first leg, so they progressed 3-5 on aggregate. West Ham thrashed Freiburg 5-0 at the London Stadium yesterday, going through on 5-1 aggregate score. By 5-1 aggregate score, Atalanta beat Sporting 2-1, and Atalanta progressed 3-2 on aggregate. Brighton beat Roma 1-0, and Roma progressed 4-1 on aggregate after beating Brighton 4-0 in the first leg. Bayer Leverkusen beat Karabakh FK 3-2 and progressed 5-4 on aggregate. Liverpool whitewashed Sparta Praha 6-1, and it's 11-2 aggregate score. So the teams that have made it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League include Milan, Benfica, Marseille, Freiburg, Atalanta, Brighton, Leverkusen, and Liverpool. And of course, the draw for the quarterfinal is also today. Stay tuned for that one as well. And lastly, the UEFA Conference League results were also in last night. Fenerbahce 0, Union Saint Gillois 1, and Fenerbahce progressed 3-1 on aggregate. On that one, Fiorentina 1, Maccabi Haifa 1, ended 1-1, and Fiorentina goes through 5-4 on aggregate. PAOK 5, Dynamo Zagreb 1, PAOK qualified 5-3 on aggregate. Victoria Plzen versus Servette 3-0 in favor of Victoria Plzen. It's goalless, and Victoria Plzen progressed 3-0 via penalty shootout. Club Brugge versus Molde, it's 3-0 on the night and 4-2 on aggregate. Club Brugge progressed. Aston Villa 4, Ajax 0, 4-0 Aston Villa on aggregate. Lille versus Stormgrass shed the spoils 1-1 on the night and 4-1 Lille progressed on aggregate. And Maccabi Tel Aviv versus Olympiacos, it's 5-7 on aggregate. And Olympiacos won 6-1 on the night, and they progressed 5-7 on aggregate. So the teams that have qualified for the quarterfinals in the Conference League are Union Saint Gillois, Maccabi Haifa, PAOK, Victoria Plzen, Club Brugge, Aston Villa, Lille, and Olympiacos. And they will also learn their opponents for the quarterfinal later today. That's the video out there. Remember to subscribe if you're new and click the like button. Don't forget to share your thoughts on the reason Ben White was excluded and the reason he has asked to be excused from the England national team. Thank you for watching this video. See you on the other side. Peace.